Man, that intro always gets me so hyped. I love that little jingle. It's so good.
I'm a big fan of the new hold music, by the way.
Yeah. So we discussed this, and Alex sent us like a whole bunch that he found, and we all voted on that one. Yeah.
So for those who are interested, that track comes from the Free Music Archive. You can Google that on the interwebs. I forget the name of the band, but we're going to put
the Years.
The Years.
The Years is the name of the band.
It falls under like lo-fi funk and R&B and soul and stuff like that. So I encourage everyone to check out the Free Music Archive if you're ever looking for something a little bit different.
That's where our little intro video, that song also comes from there. It's from Croander, I believe is the name of the band or the gentleman or the human that makes that music. Croander is the name of the one with the video, that song, the little upbeat one. Yeah.
So we've satisfied all of the giving credit where credit's due to the artists, and links, of course, to the original pieces should be in our description down below.
Yes. All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to move my camera. I feel like I'm looking far, far away from everyone here. Welcome, everyone. CASAA Live Advocacy Update Podcast. Myself, Logan, joined by Alex. And today we have Kristen with us as well. How's everybody doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm just going to rehash what I told you in the pre-show. I had my second shot of the Moderna vaccine yesterday.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to feel a little bit like nothing major, but little bit.
You don't have like full blown flu symptoms right now or anything.
No, not at all. I've got sore arm. I feel my skin feels a little like I'm getting a fever, but like other than that, we're good. But I am going to try to keep this on time today because I would rather get to like laying around on the couch and just binge watching something because that's what you do when you're sick.
Yeah. Well, after we get done with this, I'm gonna go trim my tree. That's my final thing to do today.
Is it a big tree?
It's just a tall ass pine tree.
Are you cutting it down or you're just trimming it back?
No, I have limbs like going over my roof and going over the wires outside, and so I got to do stuff. It's a nice enough day. Tomorrow and Monday are both supposed to rain, so I might as well do it today. Get it in and get it done. I hope everyone can hear us, though. We've kind of already gone a little off the normal run. I hope everyone can hear us and see us okay. It sounds like it from chat. So welcome, everybody. Thank you guys for being here. This is right out of the gate. I guess right out of the gate, we talked about trees and shots and everything else. But we're going to get into some legislation. How about that? Let's we'll hand the floor back to Alex, and we'll go through what we have.
Well, Before we move forward, I just wanted to note that we skipped Kristen in the house.
Kristen, I'm so sorry. How are you today?
So Kristen, how's it going?
Like, we got to be concerned about time, so I was like, let's get through this.
Just brush her up.
Sorry, Kristen. How are you doing?
No,
today?
that's fine. That's fine. Everything's going good. My husband was out there doing yard work today while I was getting everything set up here. I got my new camera set up, which is much better than the other one I had, which looked like some kind of postmodern art project when I was art piece when I was on camera. So this works real good.
What kind of camera did you get?
I got the Razer Kyo, Razerkio.
Nice.
Sounds fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not at Walmart. It was supposed to be comparable to that one that Matt told me about, and I could just go pick it up and didn't have to order it. So
I've had the same webcam for like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years now.
Yeah, I've just used the one on my laptop, and
that's what mine is. Mine's a little Logitech C9 something.
Yeah, C920 is what Matt said to get, I was going to do that. I found this one had the built-in light ring and everything. See,
I don't know. It doesn't say, but I've had mine for a few years, and it still works. You guys can see.
It was time for me to get one. Yeah. All right. Thank you. I had my time. Go ahead.
Yeah, down to business before everybody starts to think this is a podcast about webcams.
Do you guys want my opinions on the Logitech C920? I'd be happy to. No, we'll get into legislation.
So we do. We do actually have some content here. Of course, here is our weekly blog post. Thank you, Kristen, for putting this together. Right into the legislative stuff. We've got some interesting and beneficial things happening in Idaho. There is a preemption bill. We're asking folks in Idaho to make contact with some specific lawmakers. Senator Patty Ann Lodge, who's the chairman of the State Affairs Committee, and also contact Senators Chuck Winder and Kelly Arthur Anton. These are leadership folks in the Senate, President Pro Tem and Majority Leader, respectively. And of course, all the regular talking points to include urging all of these members of the Idaho legislature to move this bill along. This is kind of an interesting one. Going back and looking at the history, this seems to have flown through the House without, I don't even think it doesn't look like it received any kind of hearing. So they sort of suspended the rules and moved this along expeditiously. And so that's a good thing for
a good thing.
bill.
Yeah.
And this is a preemption bill that would prohibit local governments from enacting stricter tobacco regulations than what the state establishes.
Right, and that way we also don't end up with like these terrible patchworks of regulations all around the state. Would just be
right. And again, as explained on these engagements, as you go, if you're from Idaho and check this out, you'll get that little explanation about why preemption is a good thing. And of course, this all is part of a strategy to kind of pick off the sort of the weakest targets, right? City councils are typically small, people that typically don't have a background in science or public health. And so they're easily persuadable. And typically it just involves something along the lines of tobacco companies are baby eating monsters. And so of course you support this.
Right.
So very important to bring that up to the state level. State legislature has access to more resources, and you're now opening the debate up to the entire state. So folks like us can get involved. When I mean like us, just regular old citizens who don't have, an expensive lobbying team behind them, can get involved and have their voices heard. So Idaho, support H363. And thank you in advance. Moving on quickly to Maine. I don't remember. I don't think this made it in. This kind of came in under the wire or over the wire. Yeah, I didn't get this up until last night or this morning. So this is LD 1550. I think we mentioned this on a previous episode. It is now scheduled for a public hearing. This is a flavor ban in Maine, and the hearing is for Friday, May 7th at 9 a.m. The Joint Committee on Health and Human Services, Cross Building, Room 209. And we are encouraging everyone to sign up to submit testimony or register to speak. The most efficient way to do that, of course, is going to be through the state's website. And of course, you just click a couple of buttons here and enter in your comments. We've got the full breakdown here to walk you through it if you need that help. And of course, the relevant talking points to include in all of your communications. And once again, it is always an appropriate time to reach out to your lawmakers with concerns or the occasional bit of gratitude. And so we're encouraging everyone to use this handy dandy tool to find your representatives and send them a copy of the message that you sent to the committee. It's as simple as that, copy and paste. And so we have that set up on our site to help you find out all that contact information. So once again, LD 1550 in Maine, flavor ban, and it is a hearing on Friday. This Friday coming up, May the 7th. The next important thing is an update to the USPS vape mail ban. We had to update this because things have changed, but also I think there's a fair amount of I don't want to quite call it I guess it is misinformation. It's not disinformation, misinformation. Yeah. So there's some folks I think on social media saying things like USPS missed the deadline for publishing their final rule, therefore it's all null and void. That's not how this works at all. What has happened is, yes, USPS, I have to shift from like FDA now to the US mail.
Yeah.
USPS has missed the April 26th deadline for publishing the final rule prohibiting shipping vapor products through the mail. But the explanation that USPS is giving for this, and I am pretty sure I linked to it here. There was an article in Hemp Industry Daily in which they got a spokesperson from the USPS on record saying that the delay is a result of voluminous comments by industry, individual government stakeholders, industry, individual, and government stakeholders. Sorry. I've got the cognitive issues here.
You've got the vaccine fog.
Yeah, I got a little bit of the fog. So anyway, and that has completely stolen the thunder from my large amounts of praise that I want to heap on everyone who responded to our engagement on this. We generated through our system more than, I believe, 9,000 comments to the USPS. That is, I believe, the bulk of the comments. So thank you to everyone who took advantage of the engagement that we put together and sent those comments. I know that 7,000 of those folks followed up and sent their message on to their lawmakers as well. So thank you for doing both things. But it is this, the volume of comments has caused the USPS to delay publishing the final rule. Not just because of the number of comments, but because of the number of good comments. And so as we were encouraging people to share their experiences and share their concerns and point out any of their observations, it has given the USPS a lot to think about. And so they are going forward. The rule will be published, but they are being very diligent and making sure that they're sort of covering all of the complexities and nuances of this ban and how they're going to enforce it. On top of that, all of the other things that are in the new law, they have been effective. They were not contingent upon a final rule being published. So compliance with the PACT Act, which and the Jenkins Act, and registering with the ATF, and all of the things that you have to do as a retailer or manufacturer or distributor, those are still in effect. So nothing got taken off the table because they missed this deadline. It just means it's going to take them a little bit longer. And this is something that we, just to remind people, anybody who's been following this at least since 2014 should have a pretty good idea of the fact that these deadlines, although they are not necessarily arbitrary, I mean, they kind of are. They just pick 90 days after a law is passed or whatever. There's no real science behind it, but they are enforceable, real deadlines. It's just life happens. Life is messy. There are human beings that are putting these rules together and they encounter delays. And so typically you'll see FDA take years to come to a decision about things, which we'll talk a little bit about later on in relation to some new policies that folks are discussing again this week. So that, I believe, other than Bloomington, Minnesota, which is not a call to action anymore, but Bloomington, Minnesota enacted their flavor ban. Another thing that I didn't throw on here, I got an email from someone in Big Bear Lake, California. This is a community of under 6,000 people. It sounds like a resort town, and they are working on an ordinance. They're about to pass an ordinance that would prohibit smoking and vaping in all outdoor spaces in the city, like on the sidewalk, in the street.
Oh, wow. Everywhere,
it's not just limited to parks and businesses. It's California, so I assume they already have their indoor vaping ban. There's another town, I believe, not that far away from this town that has enacted a similar ban. I know that there were places on the East Coast that tried to do this. There was a town in New Jersey that tried to do it. It didn't last long, or it didn't get very far, because it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it is such a small community. We don't have any members there, as far as I can tell. And small cities like that tend to not make it onto the radar for any of the people working in this space. It's incredibly difficult to track communities with more than 20,000 people in it. So all of that to say, if you know someone in Big Bear Lake, or you yourself live in Big Bear Lake, just know that I believe on Monday, the city council is meeting, and this is the second hearing for this. It's not a public hearing. The first public hearing had 3 supporters show up. They were all teenagers. Actually, 2 teenagers and 1 adult woman spoke, and of course delivered the talking points that were handed to them, I'm sure, by Truth or Campaign or something like that. So not a lot of engagement there. But again, if you live there, you can probably do something. My advice to this person was you may be able to, if you're speaking in opposition to this, you may be able to make a request to remove it from the consent agenda. And also, I think the fine is $100 if you're caught, which compared to, I think, other ordinances similar, it's not a whole lot, but the cost of groceries is going up around the country, around the world. $100 goes a long way for some people. And for the people who are disproportionately affected by these types of laws. So, and who disproportionately smoke at greater rates.
If you don't have that $100, the consequences from there get worse.
Yeah, they can. Exactly. It enters you into the system, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
But at this time, they have sort of a handshake agreement from the local law enforcement saying that they probably wouldn't enforce that or issue citations. Most of these situations can be dealt with simply asking someone to stop smoking. And then, of course, if they refuse, they get a fine. So I imagine you'll get a little bit of that, right? This is America, right. Damn it. Yeah. This is a legal product. Stop telling me how to act. So anyway.
Especially when I'm in open air, well, I'm not right now, but if you're outside on the sidewalk,
yeah,
what does it matter?
It's not. So with that, that ends the legislative rundown for the week. Sorry if I missed anything. If anything has popped up that I didn't pay attention to.
No, we went from national all the way to like real small local.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, I think you covered a lot of ground there.
Smoking ban. Yes, that is it. A smoking ban, which includes vaping, on sidewalks in Big Bear Lake, California.
All outdoor spaces.
Yeah, all out. Basically, any public outdoor space. And it doesn't matter if it's a city park or whatever. Yeah. It's just prohibited. But you can still vape and smoke in your car because that's impossible to enforce. Which is really kind of. It's kind of funny to hear that from people because we've got a lot of states looking at laws that would enable police to pull you over if you're smoking in a car where someone under the age of 14 is present. I don't know how a cop makes that determination from a car.
Their windows cracked. Pull them over.
Yeah, like were they 15 or were they 14? I can't tell. Yeah, let's just pull them over. Are they black? Well, we'll definitely pull them over.
Pull them over. Yeah, they will. So, they absolutely will too. Yeah, they absolutely.
They don't need any more excuses.
Yeah. So and law enforcement don't want that either. Typically, I don't know about the police department in Big Bear Lake, but law enforcement don't want any more reasons to have unnecessary interactions with citizens. Yeah. So now we're done. Now we're done with the legislative rundown. What's next?
There we go.
Oh no. I'm sorry, but this is bad.
Excellent job. Again, we went all the way from national to real local there. Big Bear Lake. All right. So next,
I don't know if Logan saw it yet.
What's that? Kids get in the trunk. I want to vape. Please don't put your kids in the trunk to vape.
No, please don't do that.
Please don't do that though. Yeah. All right. What do you want? What are we moving on to next? You want to talk about the Cochrane review? Is that what we're moving towards? Oh, we got another question here. Would the state control legislation on the ballot in California trump that?
I assume this is asking about the referendum to overturn the flavor ban.
But that would just be at a state level. I don't know. These are two different things here.
So, I mean, that is a statewide policy, the dealing with the flavor ban, but that wouldn't have any effect on this ordinance. It's a completely separate issue. And I very seriously doubt, I don't believe that referendum has a preemption element to it. So unless California suddenly embraces the Republican side of politics, I don't see a preemption bill happening in California ever.
Yeah.
So this wouldn't have any bearing on local legislation. I could be wrong. I'm not entirely sure what they were asking about in terms of a ballot initiative. But as far as I know, the only referendum that California is looking at is overturning the flavor ban.
Right. I think that was what I think they're asking, if the referendum goes through and it gets overturned, would that null and void this or affect this at all? And
no.
no.
In fact, it will probably inspire this small town to enact their own flavor ban if they haven't already. Yeah.
Well, the state couldn't do it, but we can.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Just add to the chaos.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess. Well, so I have kind of a flow here to my off the blog stuff. And while we've still got people's attention, I wanted to bring up the Cochrane review again. This is the for people who are not familiar. This is the Cochrane Tobacco Addiction Group. Follow them on Twitter. It's Cochrane TAG. And Cochrane they don't just focus on vaping and tobacco. They publish these kind of systematic reviews of research for all kinds of stuff. And they are regarded around the world as kind of the gold standard because of the way that they select the research that they're including for these reviews. And I think generally, these folks are trying to get to sort of the most non-bias studies that they're using for these things as possible. And so what was published in October, I believe, was their Cochrane review for electronic cigarettes. And it was very important. It had good conclusions. I can't remember all of them, but it had a relatively positive take on the usefulness of vapor products for helping people quit smoking. And so they are continuing to update this. It is a living review. I know I'm going to mess that up. So, but it is essentially that. It's a living review. It is continually updated, I think, monthly. And so they have, new research coming in, the best of the new research coming in, and they are adding it to this review as they go forward. This, of course, is the update as of October, and encourage everybody to check this out. But what I didn't know is that the folks at the Cochrane Review have their own podcast. So wanted to take the opportunity to make sure everyone sees this and goes and subscribes to it, because these are the folks who are having the actual critical and very scientific discussion about what role, if any, vapor products can play in helping people stop smoking. And I've listened to two of these today. The most recent update, was it? No, I actually listened to one from December. My bad. But one of the things that they were talking about here in this December 2020 podcast, please don't autoplay when I open this up. Thank you. So this is with special guest, Professor Mark Eisenberg, professor and researcher at McGill University in Montreal, just up the street from me. And he was looking at, comparing vapor products to behavioral support, and e-cigarettes that didn't contain nicotine. And so the results of his research show that using nicotine-containing e-cigarettes pretty much doubles a person's chance of quitting smoking. And so what they found there was that compared to behavioral support, vaping with a nicotine-containing e-cigarette, 20% of people vaping quit compared to about 10% of people who were just using behavioral support. And so that's actually kind of consistent with this other research we saw published in the New England Journal of Medicine, showing, both groups were using behavioral support, but it was nicotine replacement therapy compared to nicotine-containing e-cigarettes. And the nicotine-containing e-cigarettes were almost twice as effective. And it was in that, I think it was like 24%, something like that. It's right around that 20% quit rate. Yeah. So anyway, excellent podcast for people to check out in terms of all the information, all of the updates in terms of the research, and strongly encourage everybody to check that out. Yeah, I have in my notes here the phrase moderate certainty evidence, which I assume this is probably a standard across folks who are sort of doing these big reviews of all the available data. It sounds very similar. It's consistent with the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine, the NASEM report, which had a lot of very similar, moderate to high certainty type of conclusions about the usefulness of vapor products and quitting smoking. So that is that. Also important to note, this group is funded by usually government grants. So Cancer Research UK is funding their work, some of their work they were talking about on the most recent April podcast. And so this, this isn't Philip Morris. It's not BAT. It's right, the British government is paying for these things. And so if anybody's worried about conflicts of interest or anything like that, not these guys.
Right. And again, like you said earlier, kind of a gold standard around the world in research here.
Yeah, and they do remark in the most recent podcast that in terms of tobacco control, they haven't quite gained that reputation yet, but I would assume it's really just a matter of time.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, for everything else, these are legit researchers on the level. They're doing things transparently and ethically. So thank you for the Cochrane folks.
Yeah, absolutely. I was trying to
some of that junk science that I'm publishing all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you for that and putting that out there.
So much junk. Don't thank me for putting out junk links.
Well,
I protest.
Exactly.
Well, correcting things,
one of the things that's really nice about the Cochrane library is, and Danielle reminded me of this yesterday. They do something called a sort of a plain language summary for all of this stuff. They have people on staff whose job it is to read all of the complicated science and then translate it into stuff that the three of us can understand. Actually, Kristen, you're a lot better reading this.
For the rest of us.
Yeah, you're a lot better reading this stuff than I am for sure. But for me and Logan, they can put this into plain language. So
that's what we need.
Very much
we just need academia just needs to get on, layman's terms for folks.
So
yeah, on top of being behind a paywall, again, it's the language of all of this is very inaccessible, and even journalists, the science writers themselves, they don't have a degree in chemistry necessarily. I don't know what their backgrounds typically are, but journalists are sort of at the mercy of what the researchers are saying. That's the headline that they print. But, then we have to rely on people like Kristen to, sacrifice her eyeballs and her brain to go read this drivel and figure out that it doesn't match up with the headline. So yeah, the plain language summary is very useful, and appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Academia, come on, talk to us. Layman's terms here. It's amazing how, I don't want to use the word proficient, I guess, but better at reading scientific papers in the last, 3 years that I've gotten because I've just read so many at this point. Like if you were to go back, 3-4 years and be like, look, and here's a scientific paper. Can you break it down for me? I would be like, no. But at this point, I've read hundreds of scientific papers,
Yeah. And it's a total revolution. This is something that is a direct result of the internet and, all of our access to information. We can read this stuff now. We're not dependent upon the New York Times or whoever to give their spin on the science. We can, if we want, we can pay for the research or know someone with access, and then there's always Sci-Hub. So, well, not sometimes it doesn't work, but certainly there are ways to get access to paywalled research. And we have millions of people who didn't do a lick of research about cigarettes before they started smoking, but now we're all getting science about vaping. I totally stole that quote from somebody. I think I stole it from Grim Green, so whatever. But that's just been a lot of our experience.
Yeah.
I was reading the comment from Jeffrey.
Just being fantastic. Oh, Jeffrey's comment here. Yeah.
Speaking while.
Am I the one frozen or is Alex frozen right now?
I think it's Alex.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was me or Alex.
So I thought it was just me.
You froze for a minute, man. You went full robot.
Sorry, you guys look frozen to me.
Oh. Well,
am I normal now?
Someone here is freezing.
Yes, you are now.
Am I normal now?
Yeah, you're good now. You're good now.
Great.
Well, that's questionable whether or not you're normal. That's a whole different
robot.
thing.
I'm not normal, but yeah, I am present. Am I present?
Yeah,
you are present.
Normal. So, I wouldn't skew you towards normal.
Exactly.
Either. Oh no, he's back. He's full robot.
I think I'm breaking up again.
We're sorry, everybody. Technical difficulties. You mentioned Grim Green earlier, so I'm going to steal his slogan for technical difficulties, his phrasing, which is dangle clacks. We're experiencing dangle clacks right now. But that's okay.
So
that's
are we back? Are we through the dangle clacks?
I think we're good. I think we're through the dangle clacks.
You're
here. Yeah. We can proceed.
All right. So moving forward, while we are still across the pond in the Britain, e-cigarette summit, which comes to us from London every year now, is also hosted in Washington, D.C. And e-cigarette summit this year is virtual, and it is on May 25th and May 26th. That's a Tuesday and a Wednesday. I know that, for our members, taking off in the middle of the week to attend a conference is next to impossible. But this is a virtual conference, and I'm trying to find some folks who are not regular old consumers. I would kind of consider, like, if you work in a vape shop, then you're fine. What you guys are making faces? Am I freezing up again?
Oh, you froze a little bit there, but you're back. You're good.
You said you want people who don't what?
Man. No. Yeah, he's frozen again.
It's frozen for me.
Oh. Okay, everybody, we have some technical difficulties, but bear with us. We'll get through this. We will get through this. E-cigarette summit, virtual, May 25th through the 26th. There are free tickets for consumers, advocates not working on behalf of the industry. Alex, are you back now?
No, he just froze again.
He froze again? Okay, maybe
I can't tell if he said he doesn't want consumers or if because he says working in a vape shop's okay.
We do.
You do want
consumers, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
So we do want consumers, and my internet's horrible. I'm gonna.
Oh, okay, Alex. Alex is.
Hi, Alex.
We definitely want
He'll
consumers
be back.
involved.
Give him a second.
I don't know exactly.
I put the link down there. I put the link in the chat to the e-cigarette summit.
Okay.
I'm trying to see. He said, what is it? May 25th and 26th, free tickets for consumer advocates not working on behalf of the industry. You can send us an email at takeaction@CASAA.
Perfect.
.org.
It says here we've got no consumer representation in the program, but we are encouraging people to participate in the Q&As. So there will be a Q&A during eSig Summit. Ooh, we've reset.
You're back. Yay.
Damn it! It keeps freezing up.
Oh no.
Nope. So close. You were with us for about a second. Oh, no, there you go. Oh man, Alex.
Should I put this up so
Alex's
that
internet
he can see
up
it when
north
he
is
comes
rough
up?
right now.
When he-
Do I need to increase my monthly CASAA donation so Alex can get some real internet? We might have to upgrade Alex. That might have to happen. Alex has a whole speech here. I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Planned
he's messaging me in chat too.
Oh, is he?
He says he's got he has real internet, but his wife might be on a Zoom call right now, so it must be picking it up.
Okay.
If you work for a
yeah.
business or a lobbying outfit or whatever, that would be able to pay your way. Whoa, now he's crossing stuff out. Why?
Alex is
I think
live.
he's trying to tell us don't talk about that. I don't know.
He's
He is live
editing
editing
right now.
We'll let him.
Alex is real champ.
Oh, he's private chatting me again. Hold on. Oh, he said, have your boss pay for a ticket.
Oh, if you worked at a vape shop or
if you work for a business or lobbying outfit or whatever, that would be able to pay your way, have your boss pay for a ticket. We're looking for people who ordinarily wouldn't be able to afford to go. So, Alex, do you still want him to send that email to us? Is this something? Do you have to apply for these tickets? Alex is gonna. He's listening to us right now. Yes. Okay. Yes, and smiley face. So, Kristen shared. I'm gonna put that in the chat. I'm gonna put that in the. Hold on. I'm gonna put that in the chat. Take action at CASAA.org. Okay. Okay, so I clicked on the link. I'm assuming this is there's a register now button. I don't know if I can share my screen with people like Alex can. Or you can also use this one, send a message to member services at CASAA.org or the Take Action one, either one of those. So, put that in the wrong chat. Hold on. I'm like going back and forth trying to chat with Alex and. Okay. Wait, no, he's still chatting. What are you saying, Alex? Oh, he said sorry. He said sorry. It's all right. I've been there. I'm trying to live figure this out right now for people. Well, I shared the link. Yeah, the link kind of took me to consumers. An archive. Want to make sure we're having civil debate. We don't want to have people going on there and just kind of being jerks. Here we go. It says we have no consumer representation in the program. We are encouraged to participate in the Q&As. It makes me crazy that we don't have consumers at any of these things. They keep talking about stakeholders, and we're stakeholders. Somehow we're not stakeholders. Why is some academic a stakeholder and we're not? You know? Yeah. I'm trying to kill time until Alex comes back. I think that was the last thing he wanted to talk about today. So I think we're on chat time anyhow. There he is.
When I jump in, it freezes up on me. So I apologize. And it's frozen up again.
No, you're actually good right now. Keep going.
You're still here.
I'm good?
We're still seeing you.
Keep going.
Kristen's sitting very
okay.
So
I'm just staying still.
Yeah. So look, I typed out it's happening again, isn't it?
No, it's not.
Keep going. Keep going. You're good.
You're here. You're good.
Okay. All right. So I typed out some of the discussion. I think I overheard you talking about why are consumers not on the panel? Why don't we have any real direct representation? I has attended 2 of these events and had people on panels. I gave a keynote speech 2 years ago, and it was well received. People came up to me afterwards and say things like we needed to hear that, and it's very important. We talk about people being in an echo chamber. Sometimes themselves in an echo chamber in an ivory tower. They just don't get exposure to real people experiencing of policy. Yes, it is absolutely necessary to things, but
He
Alex was
never
saying,
has this much trouble. I don't
you
understand
know,
what's going. Is it because I'm here or what?
no, I think Alex is just having a rough time with internet today. But
Yeah.
I think
Alex
Alex is
has
just
had a
having a
good.
rough time with
He's
internet
been able
today.
to. Alex has been able to get on a couple of these different things, and I remember him telling the story about how he is at one, and people were coming up and saying how important it was for them to hear from consumers, and yet they still don't invite us usually.
Yeah, and like Alex was saying, a lot of folks in the opposition very much do get into echo chambers, and they don't hear consumer voices. They don't hear real life experiences. They don't hear people's stories, and so it's extremely important for consumers to be involved in one way or another. He's kind of back,
Sorta.
kind of, sort of.
It's kind of like researchers who are like looking at lab rats, and they're like, we don't understand why the lab rats are doing this. They keep doing this, and it must be this thing that we're doing, that we're testing, and that's what's doing it to them. And then they come back later on and realize, well, the rats are just bored.
Yeah.
It's like, get to know them. You need to understand.
Yeah,
your subjects,
and it applies to all sorts of stuff, right? I mean, there's so many like ordinances and things that we talk about where how often do consumers get to City Hall, especially right now, to get in and go and be heard? And
especially right now.
Yeah. So this is a good thing if we can get people involved in this, like Alex said. Consumers and advocates not working on behalf of industry. There's a link there to apply for tickets. And if you don't necessarily or can't afford them, maybe if you work, like Alex said, what did he say here? In businesses or lobbying outfits, maybe you could get your boss to pay so you could go and attend this and you participate in Q&As, things like that to have some engagement and involvement at eSig Summit. He's trying to come back with just audio. I don't know if you can do that, man. You can try.
You can.
Add you? Can you just talk?
Just turn off your camera.
I don't know
we
how
had to do that on a Zoom meeting the other day. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think your camera is going to affect your internet a whole lot, man.
I don't know. The other day I was in a meeting for Idaho, and he had to turn off Charles had to turn off his camera, and it worked much better with just audio. So I don't know. Sometimes maybe that's if you're probably it's more about your computer than it is
the internet itself. Right.
I don't know. So I don't know if he's going to have a chance to come back or not.
Maybe we can. I don't know. We'll do a.
Well, I was just going to look to see.
I'll run a fundraiser to upgrade Alex's. Do like an unofficial CASAA fund. It won't be like an official CASAA fundraiser. It'll be like I'll do a fundraiser, and we'll get Alex some better internet. We'll get
one thing that's cool.
Get him that fiber optic.
Is he back yet? No. One thing we were talking about earlier was the Cochrane and research, and we did have one thing in our. Oops, he's chatting. We did have. I'm not going to repeat that. He said he can't understand us. He's getting like every 15th word. Oh, I'm sorry, Alex.
Well, now, Alex, you can be Kristen today.
Yes, you want to run the chat?
But yeah, you were saying Cochrane.
Oh yeah, one of the things that we had in the newsletter or the blog post this week was the University of East Anglia is doing a study that's going to be I don't know how do you screen share this.
We're still on. I think Alex is the only one that's able to screen share, to be honest with you. I've tried in the past. I don't know if you can.
Hold on. Window. I might have it here.
You might have it.
And I might have it. Hold on. Entire screen window.
This has got to be the best CASAA live advocacy update podcast yet. This is
we
going to
don't
be
know
the
what we're
most viewed episode.
doing. Probably we're all messed up. And that's
We
what
should
we
just
want to
title it Alex's Bad Internet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I'm doing because I wanted to just share the one screen, not my entire. Keeps wanting to share. Oh, there it is. Okay, wait, share, and then we do. Is that showing?
There you go. You got it.
There we go. Yes. So this was the article, and it was talking about that they're going to. Anybody who comes into an emergency, a hospital emergency room for any reason, they're going to encourage them to try vaping by giving them starter packs in the hospital. How cool is that?
Yeah.
I mean,
fantastic.
that is just doing things right. It's like, it's so amazing to watch. So much of this research is so biased, and people who are familiar with our social media will see a lot exposing anti-vaping bias and research and such like that. You can see all that, and it's
I think that's amazing.
Hey, look who's here.
I think that's amazing to have vapor products available to patients in hospitals right there. I mean, you're already there. That's meeting people where they're at, particularly people who smoke. That's especially people who smoke who've developed any kind of a disease. You're right there.
And how many people who say that they quit vaping accidentally, that they weren't really intending to quit?
Oh, they quit smoking.
They just got an e-cig. So I mean, and you're going to hand somebody, okay, here's some gum, which I'm sure you've tried 50 times already, and here's an e-cig. Why don't you give that a try? And they're going to look at it and go, well, this might be fun. And then next thing you know, they might be accidental quitters, which whoever accidentally quit with nicotine gum or a patch, you don't accidentally quit with a patch.
It's a very intentional thing when you go to buy a box of patches. Like if you're a person who smokes and you're like, I'm going to go buy some nicotine patches, that's a very I'm going to give this, there's no accident there. Like you're very much intending to try to quit. Yeah.
That's why a lot of those studies are so skewed. Okay,
unless
go ahead.
it's maybe a thing where you're going to be somewhere where you're just trying to get some nicotine to hold you over, maybe, but I don't know how many people use patches for that in general. Number's probably pretty low, but
I did want to jump in and add, while I had to switch routers. Sorry, I do have real internet. I just need a repeater to get it up here, and the repeater's kind of a piece of junk. So
you're much better now. By the way,
I switched to the main router. I did want to jump in and say on this thing, there was a study out of the Mayo Clinic did some research several years ago, looking at people who needed to get literally life-saving surgeries like heart transplants and other surgeries, but they smoked. So I don't know if they provided them with e-cigarettes or suggested, here, use e-cigarettes. So I don't exactly know how the study was done, but they found that when people who smoked switched to vapor products, they were now able to get these life-saving surgeries. I had the privilege of speaking to a woman who went through exactly this when we were in Atlanta one year, and she needed a heart transplant. Her heart was failing. She smoked a lot, and her doctor said, you have 9 months to get this together or you're going to die. And she, I think in a last ditch effort, tried vaping and was able to get the heart surgery and was able to come talk to me at this, event in Atlanta. So
that's just
it's very real.
Though.
And that, that just marries so well with, having a vape shop in a hospital.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, you meeting people where they're at, right? You're right there. Your doctor says you have 9 months. You need to quit smoking. Well, right inside this hospital is a vape shop that can help you do just that. Like today, like to get started right now, like you're already here. So yeah,
they'll just, what they're going to do? They're just going to pretty much ignore it and be like, well, that's in the UK. Because, Swedish people, they've got something different. You've got the Swedish experience that doesn't extend to all people. So now it'll be the UK experience. Apparently the UK and Sweden are from Venus and the US is from Mars. I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to make some joke about how it's just known the world over that British people are physiologically different than Americans.
Right. So
lungs,
that's why. All of that. Just Completely
But you know,
different
at some point, it becomes they are unable to ignore and brush off all of the research, and it is happening. Unfortunately, you know, the policy is outpacing the science at this point. So,
frustrating. Yeah.
yeah. But then this is something, you know, folks at the Cochrane review brought this up several times on their podcast that, you know, we need the research happening faster. We need to get this data faster. And I think a lot of that is, you know, its response to a lot of the public misinformation campaigns. And of course, in the United States, it's all the laws being passed to restrict our access. So yeah, at some point we're going to crest that hill, and it's just going to be undeniable at some point.
Well, it's like that tweet that I put out the other day that said something to the effect of, at what point, you know, we've got, well, how many tens of thousands of testimonials on the CASAA website? Go to the CASAA website, put your testimonial in if you haven't yet. Segue. But I said, you know, at what point do tens of thousands of anecdotes become data and evidence? You know, I mean, they can't keep ignoring the more and more.
I think I've heard a pretty decent answer to this, and I just to sort of temper that question a little bit and say, you know, yeah, there is certainly a lot of value to all of the anecdotes, but they don't necessarily qualify as high quality data, and because they weren't collected under certain conditions, that you're not able to screen people for certain other whatever is going on in their life.
Sure.
So it's that's kind of, that seems to be the way that folks most credibly not really dismiss anecdotes, but talk about it in a way that, like, you can't really use it for science apparently, which I don't necessarily believe. I think that there's, you know, our testimonials project is something I think people should be able to research. We have done our own analysis on this. So one of the most striking things that came out of that analysis was that most of the stories, one of the most popular themes throughout people's testimonials is immediately wanting to turn around and help other people, which to me, that is the core of the vaping community, and therefore the core of the vaping industry, minus, of course, your usual suspects of, you know, the folks.
It's such a pay it forward thing. Like, we talked earlier about, you know, a good vape shop. We talked kind of before the show, and you know, behavioral support, community support, that kind of thing. Like, when you make that switch, whether it be through a vape shop or maybe you have friends that help you, whatever, there's that kind of baseline community support, and then it's just kind of this like pay it forward thing. Like, you just want to share with the other people that you know who smoke this cool thing that helped you quit smoking, you know? Yeah.
If you think about it though, you know, what is the basis of the teen vaping epidemic? It's a self-reported survey. You know, they survey teens and say, hey, what is your experience? What did you have? It's essentially a bunch of anecdotes of these teens put together and made into data. So and they use that as valid science. So to say that our testimonials, at some point when you've got enough people saying, hey, I quit by doing this, you just can't keep ignoring it, you know?
Yeah. And on top of that, you know, that I think is it the youth behavior tobacco study? I forget what the youth risk tobacco study. It's specific to tobacco. You know, on top of all of that, they keep changing the questions. Yeah. I don't know that we've had more than 2 years in a row where they refer to vapor products as kind of the same thing year over year. I think the most recent one didn't ask any questions about THC vapor products.
Yeah.
So
I remember our fantastic president Danielle really frustrated with trying to analyze a lot of this from year to year and look at it, because the data isn't the same. The questions that are asked aren't always the same. So like, you kind of,
it's made it very hard.
It does. It makes it really hard to track certain things and kind of break it down more critically, because they're not
I try to make charts and stuff, and it's like one year they'll have this thing. It's like what we were talking about the other day with the biddies and the critics or whatever, which was the clove cigarettes, and all of a sudden those just dropped off, and suddenly vaping appeared, you know, in the surveys, and then they weren't asking specific questions like daily vaping versus ever tried, you know. So, and they love using the ever tried numbers more than anything else.
The
and that's
consistency though in the questionnaires and what youth are given and asked. It lacks a lot of consistency year after year.
Yeah,
for sure.
So before I set a goal to keep this at an hour, but so we got a few more minutes here. But before we go, do you guys want to talk about the menthol policy?
Yeah, we can definitely talk about menthol.
So now that I'm back, I can just say it in person. We will be posting up our thoughts, our position on this proposal next week, early next week. I'm working on it. Not today, but I've been working on it. And it probably won't
once
be.
the fog clears, we'll get the final.
Yeah. Once I've had my day of just laying on the couch and watching
absolutely.
But it's certainly, lots of ink has been spilled over this. And I did find, let's see if I can share my screen without crashing the podcast again. So here's an article out from yesterday, I believe, from Politico, talking about the menthol ban. And this is it's itself somewhat critical of this, and also noting the ACLU has come out against the menthol ban. And this, as you may suspect, has a lot to do with there is a social justice element to this. There are issues of racial equity. According to the numbers, something like 85% of Black people who smoke prefer menthol cigarettes. For white folks, it's 20%. And so essentially this law, this regulation is targeting people Black people who smoke menthol, essentially.
Menthol, yeah.
And the FDA has tried to sort of temper people's concerns about this by saying, well, no, it's a federal regulation, and
we don't enforce that.
Yeah, right. And we're only enforcing against manufacturers, distributors, and retailers.
Yeah.
So that is fine for the FDA to say that is true on their part. But at the state and local level, we've been seeing governments enacting their own legislation. And I had asked Kristen to do a little research project for me yesterday. And so I am confident that I am probably out of date in referencing these numbers. But I think what you dug up for me was there are 44 states that have some form of penalties for purchase, use, and possession for people under the minimum legal purchase age. I think that number has probably come down since 2015. Not remarkably, but certainly a good deal of the country is living under some sort of criminalization of purchase, use, and possession. And now we're talking about people who are under the age of 21. Some states have tried to thread that needle and say, well, the fines are only for people, between the ages of 18 and 21. The kids, get a slap on the wrist, or it's the other way around. And also, worth noting here that the industry itself is fond of advocating for these types of laws. It comes along with that narrative that, parents should be doing a better job. And if their kid goes out and breaks the law, then somebody's going to have to pay. You need to be punished. And this is to some extent understandable because the penalties against retailers are quite high. But again, if you have proper training, if you have a local health department who's in charge of doing compliance checks and holding retailers accountable, it's simply just by just make sure they're not selling to kids. There's really no
enforce the laws that are already here.
Just enforce the laws that are on the books. There's not really much benefit to criminalizing this behavior. It's a status crime. You're under 21. You can't smoke. You can't buy vapor products. You're breaking the law. There are some states have taken a different approach of sort of dialing it back to community service, or you have to go to some sort of re-education camp or whatever. But it is still criminalizing possession and use, and we are having this conversation about the drug war, and that this has been a source of inequity and racially targeted police violence, basically, and this is part of that the dysfunction in our system that we need to fix. So CASAA doesn't support purchase, use, and possession laws, but they exist. And so once the FDA, if the FDA finalizes this regulation, states will be moving to conform their statutes to the federal regulation, which means people who are smoking, people who are vaping, regardless of their age, may become the subject of unwanted interactions with law enforcement. Again, unwanted from both sides, that may result in injury or death. And so it's that just by itself. I mean, let's put all of this into context, right? We have better products available for people who enjoy using nicotine. That has to be incorporated into this. If the FDA is going to move forward with banning menthol, there must be products that consumers want to use that they will switch to. I don't even really want to draw that line of like that sort of conditional approval of this ban. From one perspective, I look at this as a product standard, right? Like menthol tobacco doesn't grow wild in nature. So like you are adding something to it. It doesn't necessarily make the product better. I mean, looking at it, holistically. So I don't really have a big problem just from a product perspective of menthol going away. We do that in food. There are sometimes ingredients that are questionable or not safe, and the FDA will step in and say you can't use that ingredient anymore. Personally, I don't have a problem with that. But I think the consequences far outweigh the benefits here, and that, of course, is the social justice issue. And I know I'm going way long, but I really want to squeeze this point in for perspective. When we talk about how ineffective a menthol ban is going to be, I'm going to reference a study that was publicized, I believe, this week that came out of Canada, and it looked at sort of pre-menthol ban and post-menthol ban in Canada. Now, just a little personal story. I did have to buy a pack of menthol cigarettes in Montreal at one point, and it's very frustrating because they have the plastic shields over all the cigarette brands.
Right. Yeah.
So I just had to ask the guy in English, hoping that he speaks English, which most people do in Montreal. Do you have the menthol cigarettes? And it was a brand I didn't like, but I bought it anyway because I needed cigarettes. So anyway.
Yep.
Before the ban and after the ban in Canada, what they found was something like 59% of people just picked up regular cigarettes and started smoking those. 21% of people continued to smoke menthol cigarettes, buying them from the First Nations smoke shops. And 19% of people quit. And they also found, and I think this was like at 6 months. So it's not a year, it's not 2 years. We don't know how long they've stayed quit.
We don't know how many of that 19% may go back to smoking at some point.
Right.
And again, self-reported, so they may not have actually quit.
Right. So it's all kinds of, limitations here as to how, valid or applicable this study is. That's certainly not stopping tobacco control folks from sharing this around. Even folks that we have, I think, sort of come to know having a bit of an enlightened view of all of this, are still passing this around. And so, it's the 19% that I want to highlight here, because we were just talking about vapor products used as a smoking cessation device, and it resulting in 20% of the people using them quitting smoking, which was an improvement over behavioral support. And we are holding those numbers up. We are holding studies like that up as support for why vapor products shouldn't be subject to all this harsh regulation. So if we're comfortable with 20% helping people, well, that's what this study, despite its limitations and all of that, we can have that discussion, and FDA, I'm sure, will be having that discussion. This study makes it look like an acceptable policy decision. Now, for CASAA's opinion in all of this, the fact that it is so overly coercive and will likely result in unwanted and potentially deadly interactions between officers and between law enforcement and citizens, that makes it not worth it. That makes it, those are more problems. It is causing more problems than it is solving. So at the end of the day, CASAA is definitely opposed to banning menthol. But there's just so much more to that. I don't think it's fair to just come out and say we oppose this policy. I want us all to think very critically about it. It not only to make tobacco control strategies more in line with a harm reduction approach, but also we all need to bone up on this stuff so that we can effectively debate it and push back against these policies. I suspect we will have an opportunity to submit comments before a final rule is published. So get your typing fingers ready, and we'll need your help once again to oppose a really horrible law or regulation.
Yeah, and it's prohibition though. When you get down to it, if we're going to ban the sale and manufacture of menthol and cigarettes, it's just all the drug war rules come into play, right? Like, it creates more problems. It's going to create an illicit market. It's going to add to existing illicit markets. It just makes it dangerous. It doesn't add any value to our society, as opposed to, like you said earlier, just promote safer alternatives. Like, what? How much easier would that be? Like, we would have so much less devastation as a result. Prohibition just doesn't work. Period.
And it's a lot like that comment that I quoted in our blog post this week, where she's talking about the menthol and the nicotine limit, for lack of a better word. And, she essentially said that, how did she put it? Now I lost I closed it. Where's that quote? She said, it was okay, that's where my thought was going. Sorry. And I didn't even get the shot, and I'm still going, she was talking about how it's nonsensical because on one hand they're saying, oh, well, if we can ban menthol and lower nicotine levels, then they'll move over to safer things like, patches and snus and e-cigarettes. And she said, you're trying to get rid of those and make those expensive. And, so what sense of it is you're doing on one hand saying, let's do this to move people over here. And they're saying, well, this stuff over here, let's just ban it and get rid of it. Again, we're back to quit or die.
Yeah.
and the thing with menthol is the people who I see vapors supporting it. And they're like, oh yeah, if it's that bad, you should ban it. Cigarettes, ban it. They're all bad. Go ahead and ban it. They're not going to stop with cigarettes. They're going to go after menthol snus. They're going to go after menthol e-cigarettes. They're already going after flavors. They already got rid of, mango pods. So if you think they're going to stop, it's just like the same thing with, I'm okay with, public work bans and not vaping. Well, they're not going to stop with that. So they're not going to stop. If we say, okay, menthol's bad, we agree, menthol's bad in cigarettes. Oh, well, then it must be bad in e-cigs too. So let's ban it from the e-cigs. It must be making the e-cigs more addictive. Baloney.
Yeah, the next step after menthol is all flavors in all products, like Massachusetts. And I enjoy the flavored snus products I get. I get them from Sweden. But as we were talking before we came on, there are a couple of products made and sold in America. I very much enjoy their flavors as a sweet mint from one company. And we also have, Swedish Match and General Snus, wintergreen, mint. Those are flavors that FDA has granted a modified risk order to, because marketing of those products is appropriate for the protection of public health. And cities like San Francisco ignored that. States like Massachusetts ignored that. It's infuriating. For years, all of these people, the same people that are enacting these flavor bans, have said, well, FDA needs to step in and do this. FDA steps in, does their job, and all of a sudden, well, no, that's not right. We need to ban it.
You're not doing it how we wanted you to do it.
Right.
We wanted you to do it the way we wanted it done.
Yeah.
So frustrating.
Yes.
Vapors should never support anything that's going after smoking, because they're going to turn around and take that exact same thing and apply it to vaping. They don't see us any different, you guys. You can't be like, oh, well, that's just smoking. It's a death by 1,000 cuts every single time. It's just like Alex was talking about last week about the local or just with the exemption things, but they start with the little local ones, get them all added together and go, oh, we need something to fix all these local things and do a state law. And that's what they do with everything else. Is they'll say, oh, we just want to stop it, people from smoking and the menthol, and then it ends up being vaping gets attached just a little bit at a time.
Yeah, like Alex said, they'll target local government, local municipalities to essentially create a patchwork that doesn't work very well. And then they go, look at this patchwork that doesn't look very well that we created. This is why you need a state law. And I wanted to highlight a tweet from another one of our board members, Matt Cully, which ties into this a lot. And I think he makes a really great point. He said, when talking about menthol bans or vape flavor bans, many point to the successful ban on flavored cigarettes in 2009. Total false equivalence. Flavored cigs were a tiny fraction of cigarette sales, while menthol is 1/3 of the cigarette market and flavored vapes are as high as 90. So while it wasn't a massive deal to clean the market of flavored cigarettes, taking away the preferred product of millions of users is a different story, and a prohibition of this magnitude could lead many to too many unforeseen issues.
Yeah, it wasn't successful. I mean, he's so right. That was just a bunch of baloney. It was like less than 1% of the market. And I think the big thing was that the clove market was starting to grow with young adults. And I remember that back in the 2007, 2006, you smelled clove in the bars all the time. I hated it. But yeah, and that's but they didn't sell clove. And so the big companies are like, oh yeah, we'll ban all flavors. You don't even sell friggin' flavors. Of course they didn't care. Yeah. They didn't care. But as long as they didn't get rid of the menthol. And that's exactly what they got with that act. I mean, that act was half written by tobacco companies. So it's successful, my keister.
Yeah. Another thing, I people may not have done the math on their own. I'm sure a lot of folks who've been following CASAA and contributing to CASAA for many years already get this. But, one of the things about the referendum in California that someone may have been asking about earlier, the reason for that referendum is menthol. It is paid for by
menthol
Reynolds,
smokers showed up, man.
Yeah, and it's the thing is that I believe this was reported. Reynolds spent something like $10 million on this campaign to get the signatures on these petitions to get the referendum on the ballot. And to you and me, that sounds like a lot of money, but the more than $2 billion they stand to make selling menthol cigarettes over the next year definitely justifies dropping 10 million on this project. Sure. So. Just another thing for people to kind of consider that you can read this both ways, right? Menthol is a huge revenue generating source for tobacco companies. They are willing to spend millions of dollars to protect it. On the other hand, just keep in mind that we are all getting a chance at saving flavored vapor products because of tobacco companies' commitment to selling menthol. However you feel about that is however you feel about it. But I just thought that was an important layer.
Yeah, that's absolutely the reality of the situation, though. Yeah.
All
right. What does our panel here think? We are at an hour 17. This feels like a really great time to wrap up this show.
Do we want to do a little Q&A first? I'm feeling
you want to do a little
Q&A? I thought I would. So.
Oh, okay. All right. I know Alex in the beginning was like, we're going to do an hour, guys. So I'm just trying to look out for Alex here in his couch time. But yeah, absolutely.
The air must be better for you up on that soapbox, Alex.
Calling him out.
It is. The weather is pleasant up here.
This isn't much of it's not really a question, but I found this interesting. And chat here, Ian Thomas on YouTube said menthol cigarettes have been banned in the UK from 2020. Unsure of what the impact has been, though. I would be very curious to see numbers on that.
I'm gonna have to. I will dig for this. I did see some research done. It's another thing like Canada. It was before and after the ban went into effect. I think considering that this happened in 2020, interpreting the results from this is you always have to, everything is happening under the specter of COVID-19. So, this menthol ban happened in the midst of I don't know if the UK falls under extreme lockdowns, but they had lockdowns. So all of the challenges people were facing during the pandemic certainly contributed to more people smoking. So that is actually, I believe, the result. But again, you kind of have to try to separate this from whatever influence the pandemic had on smoking prevalence.
That's got to be nearly impossible.
Yeah, I don't know that you can, but people continued smoking, and actually more people started smoking. That's what I remember. But I will dig for that, and maybe we'll bring that up next week.
Yeah. I thought that was an interesting point from chat. We got one here. We don't really have any questions so far. If anybody has any questions for us before we wrap up this show today, go ahead, throw them in chat. But Raven A. Reeves says, I support freedom of choice. If you give these regulators an inch, they take miles. Here in Washington, they have gone extreme, and now it's a pain to get coils. To even get coils.
Yeah. The last time I was in Washington, I went to Tacoma for a going out of business party, actually at a vape shop.
Oh no,
that's the worst reason to go.
Yeah, Kim Thompson, who's been in this fight for years, has been a friend of CASAA for years. She had to close down one of her locations because of the regulations in Washington State. It was very weird to walk into a shop where only tobacco flavors were on the wall. The Pacific Northwest has not been very friendly to vaping. The whole West Coast
shop
really
is up the road for me. If you go in, they still have all their display cases of hardware and things like that. But the wall of e-liquid is now just a few shelves of different tobacco flavors, and that's all that's there. What once was this glorious power wall of flavors has been reduced to a few small shelves of various, which I'm sure I don't want to discount. I from time to time I use tobacco flavors, and some of them are really enjoyable, but the fact of the matter is that it just doesn't help enough people.
Yeah, and I have the same thing. It's first of all, I am one of those few people that does not find cigarette smoke disgusting. Whenever someone drives by and is smoking in their car, I'm so like,
I'm the same way.
I love it. I love it. If you, I don't know if it's still, I don't know if it's still true, but like, if you ever get a chance to go to Las Vegas, go to the Excalibur and walk through it. That like stale smoke on upholstery or carpeting, I love that smell too. I have so many wonderful memories associated with that smell. So yeah, but I have from time to time enjoyed a tobacco e-liquid. Actually, Doug Carter sent me some that he made a batch of some flavored tobacco flavors. And right. But still, when I get that tobacco flavor, I get triggered. I want a real cigarette.
Yeah.
So,
I'm one of the people, once I regained, I don't know, maybe like 2-3 months after I quit smoking, and like just fully kind of regained my sense of smell and taste and everything, got really vivid again. I stopped liking the smell of cigarette smoke, but I still love and do occasionally have a cigar. And if I smell someone smoking a cigar, then instantly I'm like, I want that. That's what I want. I have a cigar maybe like once or twice in a year, at a wedding or something like that. But yeah, instantly I will. That's one thing though. A cigarette, somebody walking by me with a cigarette, it doesn't bother me in any way, but it doesn't make me want one either. I guess I've just kind of hit like neutral baseline. I'm just like, okay, they're just a cigarette. When
I smell it, it doesn't make me want one, but it smells good to me, like kind of like coffee does. But it doesn't make me want one. But the taste of it, I don't like the taste, and not that smell of like somebody with the stale stuff on their clothes. It's the fresh burning cigarette, kind of like a fireplace, or I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't. But you know what gives me diesel, the smell of diesel, because it makes me think of summer, which is
I
really
love-
weird. But
I love diesel exhaust.
and it's so funny because it
You
just
would love
reminds
to
me that
work
I would
where
get
I
out
work
in
then.
I would get out in the summertime when it's, because up in Wisconsin, you're indoors a lot. So you get out in the spring and the summer, and that's when you could actually smell the buses
Mm-hmm.
because we had city buses and stuff. And so that smell of a city bus makes me think of summer of all things.
Yeah, no,
You think it'd be grass and trees and flowers, but no, it's diesel.
It's the same thing for me, but when I was a kid, my grandparents lived in Florida, and so we would drive from Cincinnati down to Florida, and I remember a toll road. I believe it was a toll road in West Virginia, and at the toll booths, all the cars are sort of backed up, and the exhaust is coming out. So it's not just diesel; it's all exhaust. I have that memory of family vacation going to visit grandma. It's wild.
Funny how that
Exhaust,
triggers
the smell of
that
exhaust
smell.
for me. Years and years ago, this is going to be my last little like story spiel here. But years and years ago, I was working down in Pennsylvania, basically up on top of a mountain for a fence company. We were doing subcontracting. We were doing fences around substations for power companies, and it was the dead of winter. So we were up on top of a mountain. It was about negative 25 degrees, and we were only allowed to work for about 3 hours at a time before we were mandated to take an hour break, just due to the cold and the conditions. I got paid really well to do this, though. By the way, this was a great job, but also like a terrible job. But in between, like in those 3 hour spans, most of us between like working for 20, 30 minutes, were huddled behind, skid steers and loaders and things, then their exhaust to like warm our hands. And that's, here we are. So that's what exhaust instantly makes me feel is like I'm up on this freezing mountain. That's the place it takes me to, and warming my hands in these frigid temperatures, from equipment exhaust. So yeah, I don't love the smell of exhaust. It just takes me back right there every time. Oh man,
That's funny.
But
Mallory Gates says, wait, I gotta pull this up. I'm the same way. She said grandfather smoked pipe tobacco, and that makes me think my dad was a pipe smoker.
yeah.
And the smell, and that's what tobacco flavored e-liquid makes me think of, is that
pipe
tobacco.
Yeah,
it's not cigarette smoke, it's
Right.
tobacco, and that's completely different from what you expect. And that's one of the reasons why it didn't work for me, and it made me. So you could smell the tobacco. It's almost like that smell when you'd open up a pack.
I was going
Right.
to say this
And-
earlier. We were talking about the smell of cigarette smoke, and I don't really enjoy that. But if I'm with, someone who does smoke and they open up a fresh pack, that smell of a fresh pack pre-lit, just like right when the cellophane comes off and the tinfoil, that smell, I'm like, okay, that's
And see how that
just
can
don't
be
light
a
it on
trick.
fire, but that's good. Just leave it just like
Yeah, that totally
smells
could be a trigger
fantastic.
for people. But I remember people in the early days when we were doing, DIY and liquids and stuff like that, and people were trying to figure out how to get that char taste
Oh,
into
like
the
the
e-liquid.
Yeah.
That actual char taste, and that's what they were trying to do. And I think it's just that the whole concept of, adults wouldn't want something that's not tobacco flavored just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, they're like, well, it doesn't work to help you quit. Well, not if you keep making us do tobacco flavor.
I think there really is an interest for some people to recreate the cigarette experience as closely as possible. And that's really hard to do. We can do a lot of amazing things with aromatics, but recreating like burning plant matter, like dried, cured plant matter wrapped in paper, like that aroma, that taste is a really hard thing to capture
without actually burning something.
Without it being, like hickory smoky or smoky like that, but capturing like that.
Some people did use like
burning
liquid smoke.
cigarette taste is.
Yeah. Wouldn't that feature prominently in like a hot dog e-liquid?
Yeah, probably.
I would think so. Yeah, like a smoke flavor.
I wonder is I have heard tell of the legendary hot dog e-liquid.
Yeah.
Hot dog e-liquid.
I have to wonder, like, was that an attempt to create a cigarette, and they were just like, it's the hickory
tastes like
cigarette. It tastes like hot dogs.
It's a possibility, right? I mean, Yeah, there's definitely some out there, e-liquid flavors that I've heard of, like the savory ones. You know, people do like chicken or
Pickle.
bacon. I've heard of bacon ones,
Pickle,
things like that. You know, there's definitely some weird ones, but well, it doesn't.
And this
It
is
doesn't
true.
seem like
This
we have a
is
whole
true.
lot of
We used
questions today, though. Which is, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
we covered everything.
We covered it pretty well.
We
Nobody
answered
had any
everything.
questions.
Yeah, this is true. I think that was part of the issue that came up, is that people were wanting to put things like liquid smoke, and we're all like, wouldn't that have like, you know,
Sure. I mean, we should always be concerned with what aromatics we use
stuff
and
that they burned, you know,
whether there's unwanted results from heating them. But
oh my
sure,
God.
I just think that idea is it's such a tough thing to like capture that specific flavor. Yeah.
We were just talking about the crab e-liquid. Weren't you guys talking about that in the CASAA Skype chat like a week or two ago? The crab e-liquid or whatever. I think Julie said something. Oh,
I have a
I
friend
love
in the
crab
UK.
too, but no, I would not want to vape that.
I have a friend in the UK. His name is Richard, and he loves crab e-liquid. It's one of his favorite. And it's not even like a joke. Like, we've been on plenty of Zoom calls where he's vaping crab. It's like crab and something, like, I don't know, crab and butter or something like that. And I'm just like, really? And he's like, yeah, this is fantastic. And he'll crack a beer and he'll like drip some crab e-liquid and he'll vape it. And I'm just like, I'm kind of amazed, but I mean, taste
is it made from like an artificial?
Like, if that's the thing that helps someone not smoke, I'm not going to knock it. I don't necessarily know that crab would be a flavor of mine. I'm a big fan of lemonades. That's my jam. But
I mean, look, if hot garbage is the flavor that gets you off of vapes or smokes, I mean, fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I love crab and drawn butter, but I would not want to vape it. But I'm trying to figure out, where did the crab flavor come from? I mean, why would anybody invent a fake crab flavor? Why would you need it for anything?
Well, we have fake crab.
You know, people who DIY, and the more they get into different aromatics and searching, you know, websites and things like that, they come across these flavors and they're like, you could vape this. You know, let's see if I can make like a whole the whole seafood dinner vape. Like, can I accomplish those layers?
I mean, there's all sorts of stuff.
You brought up a really important point there, and now we're pushing past the hour and a half mark, which I said I wasn't going to do. But you know, when people talk about all the flavors in vaping and how it's all supposed to be about the kids and this and that, no, absolutely not. I'm guaranteeing you, most of the flavors that you might find in a vape shop is because somebody sat down at their kitchen table and said, I wonder if I can vape that. Yeah, I wonder if I can make something that tastes like French toast or a banana split. Like, that's where all this came from.
It absolutely is.
You can go back and see all the threads on ECF. I mean, every single flavor, all the unicorn poops and all that kind of stuff, unicorn parts and whatever, they all came on with adults, you know, most of us in our 30s, 40s and older sometimes. And, you know, a lot of people in their 20s, but the 20 somethings back in 2009 hadn't really gotten into it. They really hadn't. Yeah. We used to be like, you know, and that's when we had things like Blue and then Jewel trying to get that market. And that's what got them in trouble, you know, but yeah, like he said, flavors. I've had it up there before, but yeah, flavors. If it wasn't for peach, that was the first thing I did after buying my first little Cigalike with the little white. I mean, and that's what people want a lot in the beginning. They think they want to replicate their favorite brand, and then as soon as they realize they're not going to do that, you know, and that's what I did. I'm like, you know, I want to try to get taste like a marble, and it's like it's not going to happen. So I'm like, wait a minute, if this is fake tobacco flavor, couldn't you do just any flavor? And that's how I ended up on ECF. And that's how I ended up looking for a peach flavor. And if I had never had gotten a peach, I just would still be smoking today, because all that tobacco flavor did was make me want to have a real cigarette. You know?
Before we end, I wanted to share, to build off of that, my experience when I went into a vape shop and said, look, I'm trying to quit smoking, you know, can you help me? There never was a point in that conversation where we were, you know, what flavors do you smoke? You know, do you smoke regulars? Do you smoke, you know, menthols? What do you smoke? Kevin, the guy who worked at the vape shop and I became pretty good friends with, asked me, what's your favorite thing? Like, what do you really love? Do you love candy? Do you love cake? What's your favorite beverage? Like, what's your favorite thing that you really, really enjoy, like food wise or beverage wise or something like that? And that was where it started. And I was just like, well, I love lemonade. And he was like, so we're going to get you a good lemonade. You know what I mean? There was never like this, like, let's try to recreate your smoking experience. It was like, I'm just going to, you know, jump you right into the world of flavored things. What's your favorite thing? Because we have it, we can make it, you know, whatever that favorite thing is, we can do that. And I think that's just one of the most beautiful things about this product and this technology is you can just go, well, what's the one thing I really love? I really love chocolate cake. Well, guess what? You can quit smoking with a chocolate cake flavored vapor product. You can do that. And I just think the problem is
when they say, but I really love smoking, which I did at the time.
And then, again, you could go back down the road of tobacco flavors and different things like that. And, you know, you can get really close. But okay, then what's your second favorite thing?
Right.
You know,
and a lot of times people, especially with older vapors, you know, like my aunt, she was 70 years old when she moved in with us. And I, you know, for 5 years, we'd gone to my mom's house and vaped and stuff, and she just would never try it. She had no interest. She had smoked for 50 years, and she just didn't like all the fussing and all that kind of stuff. Well, when she moved in with us, we had it around all the time. I actually made her a little smoking porch out back and all that other kind of stuff. And one day I just grabbed her what the heck was it? An Enjoy King, I think, or something. It was really super cigarette-like. It had even had a soft filter, I think. And so I got her one of those
LED light at the end.
Yeah, and so she's like, okay, well, I'll try it. And then she said, okay, well, you know, it'd be nice if I could recharge this. And I'm like, oop, I got her. You know, and sure enough, she bought rechargeable batteries. And then one day we went to a vape shop in Appleton, Wisconsin, and walked in because I needed batteries or something, I forget. And she got out of the car and came in with and bought herself this fancy red mod.
Nice.
And went from there. But, you know, in the beginning, it was just it was little baby steps, you know. If she would have walked into a place and they tried to sell her a mod with unicorn poop liquid, she would have just been like, it was a very gradual thing, you know.
Alex and I talked about this a little while ago in one of the recent shows, you know, regarding kind of people's thoughts and feelings on, you know, incumbent tobacco company brands and convenience stores and gas stations and things like that. Again, Enjoy not being incumbent tobacco company, but a gas station or convenience store vapor product. And that being enough to pique that curiosity to get people through the doors of a vape shop. So, you know, no matter how you feel about it, in regards to getting people through the door at a vape shop, like that's one of those steps that a lot of people take. You know, they go to where they go to buy their cigarettes. Maybe they pick up something like that. They pick up a Juul or a Views or even, you know, an Enjoy or a Blue or one of these products sold at a convenience store. And they go, well, I wonder what else there is. And before you know it, they're in buying a fancy red mod and, you know, things like that.
Yeah, that's why I used to tell vape shop owners all the time, banning that stuff isn't going to help you. Having them there is helping you.
Yeah.
You know, because they're going to go and there's got to be something better out there. Maybe I will go to that vape shop. But a lot of people who smoke aren't going to go, you know, a lot of them, yes, you're going to get a lot who directly come in, but there's that many more who won't come in. And that's why it's important to have them sold right next to cigarettes. So unless you want to start selling cigarettes too, you know, let those convenience stores sell their crappy stuff, and hopefully some people will be turned off by them and not give them a try. But I've heard so many stories of people who've tried them, went back to smoking for a little bit, and then went, okay, now I'm going to go into a vape shop. You know, I've seen tons of those
to that
stories.
point. To your point, Kristen, and I think, and hopefully we can. I'm not trying to get the last word here, but we can wrap it up here. But to your point, Kristen, you know, as one of the things that I've heard repeatedly from industry folks who have been in the tobacco industry for a long time is, you know, the way that they're looking at this is what's good for one product is actually good for the whole category. And so being able to, you know, seeing these products on convenience store shelves and hearing positive things about them is good for your vape shop. It's good for the open system products. And I think I do have a small degree of confidence that FDA will be approving products. I mean, they kind of have to, but it may not be, you know, the variety that we really want. But as FDA does approve products, authorize products from market, that will, I believe, raise consumer confidence in these products as we will hopefully start to see that opinion dial come back to more reality. But this is, I think, something that a lot of the anti-tobacco campaigns are very concerned about, is that as the industry, as the products gain legitimacy, the fear is that more and more people will use them. I don't suspect we would see any more than 20 to 30% of young people continuing to experiment with these products. Marijuana was prohibited pretty harshly for many, many years, and we still have something like 19 to 20% of kids experimenting with cannabis. Higher numbers are using alcohol, et cetera, et cetera. So there's always going to be that 20 to 30% of young people who are willing to take those risks. So I don't see it really changing all that much. But again, it's, as things get authorized for market and as people start seeing them in more places, it really does, the rising tide raises all ships kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that is a great place to wrap this up, though. Final thoughts, anybody, before we head out of here? Please, if you haven't already, subscribe, turn on that notification bell. I know Kristen's pulled our little new fancy. There it is. There's the thing up a few times.
Danielle made that for us. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, please. And please, like I said, turn on that notification bell so you know when we go live. We do go live every Saturday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific, everywhere in between. You're on your own. I'm not good at time zones. Also, for the podcast listeners, specifically just for you folks listening to the podcast, if you want to catch the entirety of this discussion here today, you will be able to find those replays on YouTube and Facebook, and the links to those will be in the SoundCloud description below. That's it for me. What do we got, Alex?
Just one more thing, because my internet was being all screwy when we were talking about the e-cigarette summit. I apologize again, but just wanted to remind folks, I am indeed looking for people who ordinarily would not be able to afford to attend this conference or many of the other conferences that are actually pretty beneficial. So please send me an email at takeaction@CASAA.org. I got confused there and threw member services in there as well. That email also goes to me. So takeaction@CASAA.org. Just give me your email address, which is kind of what happens when you send me an email. I guess briefly why you think you deserve a free ticket. It's not a high bar. It's really intended to be available for folks that wouldn't ordinarily be able to attend, and you don't have to show up on the days of the conference. Being registered gets you sort of early access to the recorded presentations and so on. So E-Cigarette Summit eventually posts all this stuff up for public consumption at some point, but being registered gets you access earlier. The other thing is, if you are able to show up and participate, there are opportunities for Q&A. And if you are interested in participating, please, this is civil society. These are folks who wear, a coat and tie to work. And so this is not an opportunity to attack folks, but to genuinely engage and ask questions. Leave the attacking to folks like Greg Conley, who does it actually very well in a very professional way. But it is, this year, the only way for consumers to participate is by asking questions and showing up and engaging. But there is a very good roster of speakers. I don't have the program open, but I really would encourage everyone to check this out and check back, on the previous e-cigarette summits. They do put together a good program. In the UK, it has actually been very useful in changing opinion. Not so much in the United States because, we're the United States. Again, just want to make sure everybody got that invitation and reach out. That's it. Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend.
I just wanted you to know that. I'm just going to say,
please. Oh, go ahead. What?
Mark says Alex's troubles were entertaining. Yeah, your dysfunction added to the entertainment today. Your internet dysfunctions.
Please go to CASAA.org, and if you haven't yet, submit your testimonial. Check out our store. We've got merch, and that goes to us, and we get a percentage of that, which helps. and you can donate there. If you have not officially joined, please officially join. The more numbers we have, the more impressed people are. We could say we've got 1 million members. It's like, hey, maybe we ought to include them at the table. They've got 1 million members. Well, if you don't officially join, we can't say that. So please be sure you officially join. And if you're on Facebook, please like our Facebook page, follow us, and join your Facebook group. We've got 50 state Facebook book groups included, and then we also have DC and Puerto Rico too. So go in there, check it out. We post there first if there's stuff about your state going on or something that's going on locally in a city or a county. So join that Facebook group too. And everybody have a good week. Follow us on Twitter if you haven't yet.
Perfect. All right, everybody. Thank you all for joining us today. Again, we apologize for the technical difficulties and whatnot. It was pretty entertaining there for a little bit. I tried my best to fumble through Alex's show notes while he was gone, but Alex did a much better job than I coming back.
I did too.
Yeah, Alex coming back and being the voice of the show here. Thank you.
Save the day.
Yeah, absolutely save the day. But thank you everybody for tuning in. We will be back next week. Stay safe, everybody, until then. And Kristen, take us away.